Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses. Or should I simply call you the strongest? What's up guys, I'm Hunter, and here we are to do a quick discussion on whether or not Sukuna, the king of curses, the beast and monster of the Heian era, is truly the strongest in every single means, metric, and aspect that we can talk about in comparison to literally every other character within the Jujutsu Kaisen series, or if he is the strongest overall, yet falls short in some areas. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. What's up guys, that guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me, and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, Ryomen Sukuna does tend to have it on him, and keep it on him at all times. And another fun fact on top of the fun fact, I think it's pretty much impossible. Now at this point, with his successful execution of Gojo Satoru, to argue that Ryomen Sukuna is not the strongest creature, the strongest character. Sure, were there other means and metrics than what would be considered conventional for why he defeated Satoru Gojo? Absolutely. But the fact still stands that the only other character that was consistently in discussion both in and outside the narrative to be the strongest fell to Ryomen Sukuna in an extensive battle where no one else interfered but Gojo and Sukuna's own abilities. In fact, you can argue that Gojo opened up with something that was, in fact, somebody else's abilities. So, Sukuna is stronger than Gojo, especially considering now he has seemingly free and easy access to an ability that bypasses Gojo's main ability. I don't think it's very hard to argue that the man is now the mightiest overall. Like, just pound for pound, you put Sukuna in a 1v1 against pretty much any character, most likely including Satoru Gojo at this point, as we know him. Other awakenings or further evolution or whatever was standing. As far as we know, if you were to take current Sukuna, fully heal him, you take Gojo Satoru, stick him back together, wrap some duct tape around his torso, heal him up fully, and then bada bing bada boom, revive him, I suppose, and then throw him against Sukuna, it's very likely that Gojo would lose again. Once again, you have to give them both their, get rid of their brain damage too. Fully heal them, but most likely Gojo would lose again. Especially considering Sukuna was already able to go pretty relative to him when he had an imperfect body for sorcery. Now Sukuna has a perfect body for sorcery. And an attack that will actually execute Satoru Gojo, in comparison where we see on numerous occasions that Gojo Satoru was kind of struggling to execute Sukuna. So, with that being the case, the question now stands. Of course, he's the strongest, but does that mean Ryomen Sukuna is the strongest overall? Like, if I were to go down a stat line of every single aspect of a source within the series of Jujutsu Kaisen, is Ryomen Sukuna the pinnacle at that? Sure. There are definitely different semantics you can go down, different arguments you can make about other characters being superior to him in some ways, but the question that we're trying to answer in this video is going by every single aspect of a sorcerer, is Ryomen Sukuna the strongest? So, let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. So, the first thing that we need to cover in terms of just an overall stat sheet for sorcerers would be strength. And by strength, I don't mean who can deadlift the most. I don't mean who can bench press the most. I don't mean who can bicep curl the most. I mean who hits you the hardest. If we were to just take people away, reduce them down to basic curse energy reinforcement for my heavenly restriction users out there, all y'all, for my just regular punches, who hits the hardest? Who can simply why I order, and boom, and suddenly you're knocked out. I think, unfortunately, this isn't too complicated a discussion because it's most likely Ryomen Sukuna. Now, there are definitely arguments on that, though, if we start compiling curse techniques. And if we go beyond the levels of curse energy reinforcement, mainly because there are some strange outliers, and based on what you think output means, there could be people who surpass Ryomen Sukuna in terms of sheer punching power. But in terms of just actually, no, not really. Overall, it's kind of just a mess. But with that being the case, let's go over some of the heavy hitters and why Sukuna may actually not be the strongest in terms of sheer. Number one, the biggest heavy hitter that we know of from history itself would be Ryumen, at least up to the point where Kenjaku acknowledges it and the narrator acknowledges it. But the question is, how much validity does the statement have now that Ryomen Sukuna is stronger, fully incarnated, and better than ever before? That's the question. Ryumen is said to have the highest curse energy output in all of history. Output doesn't just mean his big old blasts, his big old beams. It means just the man punches real hard. Punches hard. Like, punches so hard that even Kenjaku, upon hearing it, is like, oh, nah, man. I'm gonna talk about sheer highest output. You got my boy Ishigori over there, and he's slobber knocking. Even the narrator's like, he's slobber knocking. This man is so powerful. He had Yuta Okotsu, the arguably second or third bulkiest character in the entire series, being like, whoa, even just his punches, you know, I could take a little bit of damage from that. And of course, being Yuta Okotsu, you need like Durneg, or like some weird stuff, or just insanely high power to damage him. So Ishigori may actually punch harder than Sukuna, mainly because we don't know how much Sukuna, how do I put this, layer on his punches, apply to his punches, infuse into his punches. Because the thing is, right, if we don't assume that Ryomen Sukuna can like cleave with his knuckles or place a dismantle over his fist, if you were to just take them up to a punching machine like in Dragon Ball and just have Ryomen Sukuna punch and Ryushigori punch, I mean, if you think 20-finger Sukuna isn't any stronger than Heian era 20-finger Sukuna, you ignore the things about the fingers getting stronger over time, and you just go with the idea that, well, Sukuna says he could reach his real 20-finger self with the 19 fingers plus the mummy, and then thusly current modern Heian era Sukuna is the same power level as old past prime Heian era Sukuna, and you assume that Meguna has uniform stats, so he doesn't get any stronger from there, then realistically, you could argue that the statement for Ryu would still apply, and a punch from Ryu Ishigori would still legally hit harder than a basic Sukuna punch. Does this mean that Ryu Ishigori is stronger than Sukuna? Only in punching. In literally nothing else, but only in punching. Another candidate for this would be Yuki Tsukumo, another questionnaire, mainly because of Yuki's entire technique. Unlike Ryomen Sukuna, who we don't know if he can, like, cleave with the front of his fist, or, like, essentially his knuckles. We have no idea if he can knuckle cleave you. We know he can feet cleave you, so he may kick the hardest. We don't know if it was a feet cleave. I think it was a feet cleave in 247, but hey, that's he's strong. But essentially, we do know that Yuki Tsukumo can infuse her punches with her technique. She can slobber knock as hard as humanly possible, if not flat out beyond it. And considering that Kenjaku was like, whoa, golly, she hits real hard, but she couldn't take Kenny's head off, it raises some questions. Once again, we don't necessarily see Ryomen Sukuna like punch anybody so hard that their limbs break off. And realistically, even if you assume that Kenjaku has the same durability as Suguru Geto, the same amount of cursed energy, reinforcement, and all that, then, like, realistically speaking, Geto's able to eat hits from Yuta. If you go with the movie, a Black Flash from Yuta, and he's able to survive hits from fully manifested Rika. So the fact that the punch that broke off both of Kenjaku's arms should be comparable to whatever damage, realistically, Yuki hits harder than fully manifested Rika, just based on the fact that fully manifested Rika never really broke Suguru's arms, or broke anything on Suguru for real. That was the love beam at the end. So in terms of sheer punching power, you can definitely make a pretty solid argument that Yuki Tsukumo should be up there, realistically. Just because Sukuna, once again, with his regular punchy punches, doesn't really have any crazy feats. Like, I don't know, I can't think of a single character who he's, like, broken the arms off of with a punch. Especially a character of special grade tier like Suguru Geto, or in the case of Yuki Tsukumo, Kenjaku. So I can see a pretty solid argument for Sukuna actually being like number 3 or number 2 in the verse. But then again, there's another person on top of that, Gojo Satoru. Of course, Gojo Satoru is gone, but so is Ryu Ishigori and Yuki Tsukumo, so I have to tackle Gojo Satoru. The thing about Gojo Satoru and how hard he hits, when he infuses himself with blue, he punches really hard. Like, enough to the point where Ryomen Sukuna is, like, taking lethal amounts of damage from it. Or at least damage serious enough that he's not able to maintain his domain anymore. And sure, that's not lethal amounts of damage, but it's enough to the point where every single time we see a domain shatter, it's usually because Gojo Satoru buried his fist into Sukuna's chest. And once again, reflexively, we don't really see Sukuna do anything of similar value to Gojo. The only, like, I don't think, with punches? He knocks Gojo back with a kick after leaping out of the Shadow Realm, but in terms of the sheer punches, we don't really see anything like that. Same thing with Sukuna versus hajimekashimo, who should be one of the more durable characters in the series, just based on his status as one of the strongest. But even then, remember, it's not the punches that take Kashimo out. He's actually able to eat those with, admittedly, some spit up, but he eats those. It's the fact that he got cleaved. And once again, we don't know if Sukuna can infuse cleave onto his fists. So, in terms of just sheer striking power, you can definitely argue Gojo Satoru is above him too. You know, that Black Flash, blue amped from Satoru Gojo, knocked Sukuna out in the midst of their battle. And none of Sukuna's punches, infused or non-infused, were able to do that. So there are 3 whole characters you may be able to get above Ryomen Sukuna, stat-wise, in terms of sheer punching ability. No one else is really on the roster, though. Once again, fully manifested, well, maybe fully manifested Rika? Maybe? I don't know. I feel iffy on that, mainly because fully manifested Rika is able to damage Ryu, which is very, very impressive on an output front. But, like, this is the same fully manifested Rika, if not a weaker fully manifested Rika. At best, they're equal. I don't think you can make an argument that the new fully manifested Rika is stronger than JJK01. This is the same one that couldn't do any real lethal damage to Suguru Geto, and Yuki was hitting harder enough to do pretty lethal damage to a Suguru Geto copy in Kenjaku, breaking off both of his arms, and most likely removing his head if it weren't for Plot Jaku getting carried by the plot in that moment. I mean, maybe Yuta Akotsu, but then again, that's a sword. So swords kind of cheat. Off guard, maybe that fate's a little questionable. So I think you can definitely argue that Sukuna still punches harder than Rika or Yuta. But I do think there's a pretty solid case just based on the bulk that Yuta's supposed to have and Ryu being able to push through that bulk and push through fully manifested Rika's bulk. You can definitely make an argument for Yuki Tsukumo with her Kenjaku breaking punches, and you can definitely make an argument for Gojo Satoru, the punches that were actually able to transcend Sukuna's durability and do lethal amounts of damage, or not lethal, I keep saying lethal, but enough damage that Sukuna was like, oh lord, I can't hold my domain no more. And also one when amped by a Black Flash that literally knocked Sukuna out. And once again, sure, you can definitely make the argument that Sukuna is much stronger in his forearm state, you know, beefier, more musculature, more beef to reinforce the curse energy, but still, how much that really matters is very, very contentious. So in terms of raw striking force, I don't know, Ryomen Sukuna. You can make the argument that he's number 1, or you can make the argument that he's number 4. There are 3 whole characters that should do him better, though I can't really think of anyone else. Once again, I know people want me to mention Akari, but no. Come back to me when he actually damages his opponents with more than, like, a nosebleed. Akari fans, please come back to me then. But, of course, that's just strength. And obviously one of Sukuna's biggest things is the fact that he doesn't really need to hit you all that hard. What about speed? What about combat speed? Yeah, this is one where he may be uncontested, except he's not. Gojo Satoru, once again. Notably, they do go relative throughout their entire encounter. And once again, if you, unlike me, because I'll admit, I think Sukuna did get faster when he incarnated into his full self. Because I do believe your base body matters on top of Kurt's energy reinforcement. This is established all the way back in the Yuji versus Yuta fight, but I know some people don't believe that. They think 20-finger Maguna is equal to 20-finger Sukuna in his hand body form. And if so, once again, we'll go with that assumption. That's fine. We see on numerous occasions that Gojo Satoru is able to outpace not just Sukuna, but Sukuna and his summons. Just back to back to back. And we've seen that Gojo Satoru, on multiple occasions throughout their battle, is able to appear right in front of and tag Sukuna before he could react or block or dodge. Though admittedly, there are times when Sukuna is able to just fully palm his punches, catch them, react, dodge, throw weave, you know, get a little boxing in there, but outside of that, Gojo Satoru very clearly has a speed advantage. Admittedly, that is through the usage of blue. Notably, they seem to be relative the entire time when Gojo's not using blue. So they are most likely at most equal when they are going bar for bar with just regular physicals, but once again, just like Sukuna can't use, or seemingly enough, can't do a cleave punch for striking force or raw strength or striking strength, it appears that he can't use cleave or dismantle to like amp his speed in any way, shape, or form. But it's not really too bad. Oh no, you're slower than Gojo Satoru. By slower, I mean like sometimes you get got, other times you don't. This is the same man who can hop off air. Like he's just that fast. This is the same man who perception blitzed Choso, who was firing a piercing blood at him, and he double donated him before Choso could realize what happened. This is the same man who could literally at any moment perception blitz the entire rest of the cast, because Gojo Satoru could do the same thing. This is the same man who managed to get out an entire 3-stage chant in front of a light speed attack that was launching at him, and he proceeded to blitz it with an attack of his own and proceed to manhandle hajimekashimo. Just manhandle him. You know, probably the 3rd fastest character in the verse. And I've seen people argue that he's faster than Gojo. I mean, Kashimo versus Gojo, that's a video for its own time, but I'm not really leaning towards that, but some people argue it, because once again, Gojo's light speed scaling is kind of weird, but you do have magnetic rays from Kashimo and stuff like that, so Sukuna is able to blitz that, outspeed that, manhandle that, in his true body form. And if you think the stats are uniform, he'd be able to do that as Maguna. The only character who's been able to show him to directly outspeed Maguna on a couple different occasions is Gojo Satoru. That is about it. No one else can compete in speed. We see it, one of the other fastest characters in the series, Yuji Itadori, go full-on sprinting after Sukuna, and he literally says he's way too fast. Maki and Toji. Maki, and by proxy, the equivalent to Toji, at best, you can get him up to 15 fingers levels of speed. Not 20 finger. Not 20 finger. Well, once again, if we're assuming stats are linear, not 20 finger. And even then, Maki was doing that alongside Yuji, for the most part. And sure, her and Sukuna do have some one-on-one exchanges in combat where she's able to tag him, redirect him, and stuff like that. But once again, the gap between 15 finger and 20 finger should be wide enough that Maki and Toji, despite how fast they are, should not be able to compete. So, they're some of our fastest characters. You could maybe try to make arguments for Big Jaku, but Big Jaku's clearly scared of Gojo, who's about to perception blitz him if Sukuna didn't appear. So there's that. Yuta is still stated to be weaker than Gojo with one arm. Missing, well, I was about to say missing some of his head, but kind of literally missing some of his head with the brain damage and all that. Hikari still fought her. I refuse to believe anything else until proven otherwise. No, I'm kidding. I'm messing around with Garfield. I'm gonna give him a couple battles. Don't worry. But once again, nothing really suggests it. I've heard some people make some meme arguments that Higuruma's like that, but if you just read the manga, that's clearly not the case. No character's up there with Ryomen Sukuna in speed, except for Satoru Gojo, who can sometimes eclipse him using blue. If you just go with base combat speed, they're relative, if not equals. And Sukuna's even able to keep up and react sometimes when Gojo gets a little bit tricky. Like when he used the Shadow Clone Jutsu and was Killua walking around Sukuna, and Sukuna was still able to just... So there's that. In terms of overall, like, sub-Jujutsu sorcerer metrics, things that everybody can do, Sukuna's kind of the best at it all, with one exception. The only thing we don't know if Sukuna can do very, very well, though presumably he can, he just doesn't need to because he doesn't bother to because it's pretty much worthless to him, Simple Domain. That's about it. That's about the only thing that's like a universal sorcerer tech that we don't know if Sukuna can do. But the main reason he doesn't use it is because he's the best domain amplification user in the entire series, only rivaled by Higuruma Hiromi. Even Gojo Satoru, the strongest sorcerer, never whipped out domain amplification. Not once. Not once. And to be fair, if he had used it, he may have actually been able to, depending on how you think it works with Shikigami. If Gojo Satoru was actually as skilled or as talented as Higuruma Hiromi and just whipped out domain amplification after witnessing it like 10 times, he may have been able to just turn off Maharaga. Turn off Ahito, just by giving him a big old domain amp hug. Gojo never did that. The only other domain amplification users are Higuruma, who Sukuna does admit in 247 is almost on his level in terms of understanding of his own technique and how to carefully mitigate it in response to domain amplification, and that's it. Like, you want to look me in the eyes and say Jogo's as good as domain amplification as Sukuna is? Go ahead. Go ahead and lie to me like that. Go ahead and lie to me like that. You want to tell me that Hanami is as good as... I can't even say it because it's so blasphemous. You want to tell me that Hanami is as good at domain amplification as the king of curses is? For real? You trying to tell me that? You trying to tell me that? For real? You just let me know. Just let me know if you really believe that. Those are the only other ones we see. We don't see anyone else use domain amp. In fact, let me double check just to make sure I'm not crazy. But like, I think those are like the only 4. Like, presumably Kenjaku knows it. Never used it though. Presumably Choso may know it. Never used it though. I think Mahito used it. Hold on, let me double check. I'm gonna trust Wiki-chan here. So let me run domain amplification Jujutsu Kaisen wiki. Let me see the users. Jogo, Hanami, Sukuna, Higurumi, Hiruma. Those are the only 4. Kashima recognizes it, but he clearly doesn't use it. So like, domain amp, contract. Oh, Hollow Wicker Basket as well. But when you have domain amp, why bother with Hollow Wicker Basket? Simple as that. Falling Blossom Emotion. Okay, Gojo can do that better. And so can Naobito. Fantastic. He doesn't need them. He has domain amp, the best in the entire series. So sure, he doesn't have Simple Domain and Hollow Wicker Basket. 2 inferior techniques to domain amplification. The only thing you can argue a Simple Domain can do that something like Simple Domain and Hollow Wicker Basket, the only thing you can argue that they can do that domain amplification can't is negate sure hit effects of domains. But even then, that's questionable. Because there's a data book statement out there that says that domain amp can resist sure hit techniques. That's just a thing. he never uses it in the Gojo versus Sukuna fight to do that, which implies that it doesn't, at least in my opinion. I don't think he would have wanted to get hit by Unlimited Void, but I don't know. That seems to just be the case. Same thing with Joko getting hit by Unlimited Void, but maybe that's just like a complexity thing. I have no idea, but there is a data book statement out there that says Domain Amp can do that. So there is that. So you could make an argument that he really doesn't need the other two. But presumably, considering it's Ryomen Sukuna, he could probably just mimic that. Just like that. Easily and instantaneously. Oh, another thing that's just a universal sorcerer trait, I guess, even though he's like the only guy who can do it on command outside of kenjaku, the splitting of the soul into objects. Remember, the first time Kenny helped him, the second time he pulled off a pinky, fed it to Megami, and boom, he was incarnated again. Like, we haven't even seen Kenny do that. We don't know how Kenny's transfer works. Presumably, like, the cursed object or his technique is his brain, and he just puts that in another body, but we still don't know how that works. So, Sukuna's also the best at that. Wow. Crazy. Next level. What's another universal thing that Sukuna can do better than everybody? Oh, yeah! Chanting. Wanna know why? Because the man has the best body for it. 2 mouths. 2 for the price of 1. Heck, considering Ryomen Sukuna is able to, like, shapeshift to manipulate the bodies of even his vessels, it's very likely he can manipulate his own flesh even further. He could probably just make omni-mouths. He could make a mouth here, a mouth here, a mouth on the bottom of his feet, though that probably tastes disgusting because he's barefoot right now, but considering his diet, he probably wouldn't care all too much. He can make mouths everywhere and just keep chanting. Chanted and chanted. He can literally chant as he's talking to you. He can probably chant 2 separate things at the same time and attack you with both of them. He may be able to double amp himself with chants. He's like the one of 5 characters who we even see chant. Like who? Outside of like barrier casting and Gojo versus Sukuna, who else do we really see chant? And I guess technically domain expansion, like going Ryoki Tenkai technically is a chant, but like that's about it. He's the best at that. Oh, barriers. Domain expansion. He's the best at that too. Like, notably, we're going to get into his sure hit effect and why it may not be the best. May not even be the best. Well, actually, no, it is really, really good. It's just Gojo Satoru. But the thing is, in terms of domain, refinement, efficiency, power, all that, clear. The only other person who may loosely, and I mean loosely, rival him is Kenny, because we know Kenny has an open barrier domain. Tengen, supposedly, though I don't think it's true anymore, supposedly the best barrier user in the entire series is like, oh, this is a similar domain to what Sukuna showed back in Shibuya. It's almighty, divine, transcendent. But yeah, you know whose Kenny's domain is like? Sort of about, kind of similar to Sukuna, who the narrator got on their knees, unzipped it, well, Sukuna doesn't have zipper pants. Tore it down, slobbered all over it to say it was a divine domain. Like painting on air, transcendent. 200 meters of ooey gooey slashy good. Yeah, in terms of domain refinement and domain expansion refinement, he's just the best. He's the strongest at that. We literally see another very, very powerful barrier user, one of the presumably one of the strongest outside of him and Kenjaku, considering they have open barrier. We see Gojo Satoru's domain up against Sukuna's. Even after Gojo changes the conditions like 5 times, Sukuna's most basic condition consistently overrides it. Because his domain is just that much better. So in terms of just sheer domain and shell or the open barrier nature of it, the best. Clearly. Only rivals Kenjaku, and even then I think Kenjaku is lesser because we just don't have a statement of being able to cover a 200 meter range. Just something we don't have. So, honestly, Sukuna is the best at that. Another thing that Sukuna is the best at, by a long shot, like the only thing that may surpass him doesn't exist yet, is cursed energy amount. The man has, according to Yuta Okotsu himself, I've seen people take umbrage with this statement and not like it, because, you know, Yuta's a humble little fella, but I have no idea, in a similar vein to an earlier statement by Yuta, I have no idea why he'd be lying. He literally says, just on a guess, on an estimation, oh yeah, Ryomen Sukuna, about more than twice the curse energy that I got. About more than twice. Not just twice, more than twice. And I want you to realize, Yuta Okotsu is the character outside of like Rika Orimono in her cursed state, which is supposedly was supposed to have literally boundless cursed energy. Geto says that, Gojo says that, it's all throughout JJK Zero, boundless cursed energy. That's the only person that may surpass Sukuna, Yuta Okotsu, out of our sorcerer cast, and out of our curse cast, once again outside of Rika, is stated to have the most cursed energy, more than Satoru Gojo. And Sukuna has more than twice of that. Dog. That's a lot of juice right there. That's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of juice. That's a lot of juice. Once again, the only person Sukuna may be second to, or maybe third to once it spawns, if it spawns. We don't know. Once again, I'm huffing my copium and hoping it spawns so it can save all of Jujutsu. But the only thing that's confirmed to probably have more curse energy than Sukuna is Rika, because we've never heard of Rika running out of energy. Especially JJK0 Rika. Current Rika, that's the 5-minute timer, but once again, presumably fully manifested Rika just has everything like that its curse variation did. But in JJK0, curse Rika literally balanced curse energy. We never get a statement of it even being possible for it to run out. Yuda's the only one who can run out, so Sukuna may be second in curse energy amount to that. Which isn't a thing that really exists anymore, except for the 5 minutes when it does exist. And like the merger, because it's going to be the culmination of all the cursed energy in Japan, plus all the people who perish in Japan. So like that may be the only thing to surpass Ryomen Sukuna in terms of sheer cursed energy amount. But wait a minute. Wait a second. Let me stroke my beard real quick. Hold on. Oh, wait. Cursed energy. What about... Oh, yeah. Cursed energy efficiency. The man's so good. He's being compared to the 6 Eyes. The 6... For context, if you've forgotten about the 6 Eyes and why they're ironically probably one of the more broken techniques in the verse, arguably a top 10 technique. I forget where I ranked it on the Curse Technique ranking. If I even ranked it at all. I think I may have ranked it fused with the Limitless, because ironically enough, while the 6 Eyes can kind of work on their own, the Limitless cannot work without the 6 Eyes, at least from our understanding of it. But Ryomen Sukuna is so efficient that Kashimo Hajime, the strongest of his era, which, as much as I joke about being in era farmers, which is everyone jokes about being era farmers, both Ryu Ishigori and Kashimo came from that era. Too easily, like, the lowest you can put Ryu's top 15, the lowest you can put Kashimo's top 5. Fenton Stammer Kashimo, that's the lowest you can put him. So, like, we joke about the era being of bums and farmers, but it's really not. But Kashimo, upon simply seeing Sukuna fight from a distance, not even really being there, he's like, oh yeah. Bro's cursed energy is so refined, the only reason he's doing worse than Gojo's is because Gojo's actually cheating. Man's cursed energy refinement is so good, it's literally being beat out by one mechanic. That is an entire curse technique meant to refine cursed energy. So legally speaking, he is second to Satoru Gojo because of the 6 Eyes. Legally speaking, he'd probably be second to any 6 Eyes user because that's what the 6 Eyes is literally built for. If we were to strip away any techniques and just go by pure efficiency, who would lose cursed energy the slowest? It would be Sukuna. But once again, he will fall second to Satoru Gojo due to, those big old blue eyes of his. And big old beautiful blue eyes. So he will fall second to him for that. But that ain't too bad. Cursed energy reinforcement, once again, that's just the best. The best. We have yet to see someone be so efficient, so powerful, so juicy with their cursed energy reinforcement as Ryomen Sukuna. He's so strong. Well, I mean, I guess legally speaking, in terms of just base cursed energy reinforcement, he's able to recognize the others have gotten better, but he never says they're on his level. Never, ever, ever. And once again, strip away other things, the only person who may rival him is like Satoru Gojo. In terms of, well, it's questionable. Because it depends. If we're talking about cursed energy reinforcement as a whole, he should just have the best, because he's the most skilled with cursed energy in the entire series that we've seen so far, even more than Kenjaku. But if you want to talk about just sheer durability, like who can eat a slobberknock well? Who can you smack across the face the most times? It's going to be Ryomen Sukuna. It's simply gotta be him. It's gotta be that guy. It's gotta be that guy, pal. Because this is the same man, though admittedly Urume ate it too, which is kind of still crazy to me that that's a thing that's confirmed, that Urume also ate the 200% hollow purple. But 200% hollow purple flying at him. He had no idea it was coming because of Father Ijichi saving us all. 200% hollow purple flies in his face. He puts his hands up trying to block it, still vaporizes both of his arms. Wait, I'm sorry. You mean to tell me the atomic deconstruction attack that could hypothetically wipe things from existence? I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying it could. You're telling me all he lost was his arms? Oh yeah, he's just that guy. The point-blank unrestricted hollow that nearly fried Gojo Satoru himself despite it being his own cursed energy? He ate that while he was on the verge of being off by a hollow purple. Bro's cursed energy amounts and reinforcement were super low at that point, and he still ate that. I want you to realize, this man right here, watch Gojo Satoru go, why I oughta, and boom, beamed him dead in the chest with a blue enhanced black flash. And he did go, But his chest didn't explode. Remember, this Gojo without black flashes was like carving holes in his sternum. His whole chest was being blown apart. But not only was he in contact and in pieces, well, not in pieces. He was not in pieces. Not only was he able to hold himself in one piece then, but also when he got beamed to the chest by blue, amped by a black flash, amped by a punch with Gojo's cursed energy reinforcement behind it, all that, he's still alive after that. Most characters in the series are not surviving that. Yuki's not surviving that. Geto's not surviving that. Yuta may not survive. Remember, Yuta's thrown up on regular, casual blue punches. Not to talk of a desperate, top-of-the-line, black flash, blue amp punch. I'm sorry, no one else has eaten that. Sukuna, he's got to be top 1 in terms of durability. I know y'all are going to be like, well, what about fully adapted Mahoraga? Well, yeah, but that's cheating. In terms of just, like, base durability, for some reason, I know exactly why that always makes me laugh. But in terms of just sheer raw durability, base durability, ain't no one doing it like Sukuna. That man eats everything. Name another character in the series who could eat an unrestricted hollow purple. I'll wait. Other than Gojo. Gojo. There you go. They're Gojo. But like, other than Gojo, who can eat an unrestricted hollow purple? So I thought. From Sukuna's him. But of course, we covered almost... Oh, wait a second. Speaking, what couldn't he not do after getting hit by a hollow purple that was unrestricted? Oh yeah, RCT. He's admittedly not the best at that. He's like number 3. He is number 3. Like, I don't think there's really an argument. You can't put him higher. Like, we see Gojo Satoru RCT through his sure hit, sure execute, prime divine domain. So like, yeah, Gojo Satoru's RCT is better. And then Urume just flat out states, verbatim, Urume, who should know Sukuna just as well as Sukuna knows himself, considering all that Urume's been through, Urume very explicitly states that Jackpot Akari has better RCT speed, ability, and capability than even Sukuna. So, unfortunately, he's number 3 in that. That's about it. And finally, the last thing we need to cover, in terms of just overall things for Sukuna, curse technique. Does he rank number 1? This is kind of, in terms of curse technique control, efficiency, and understanding, he is number 1. He stretched the 10 shadows further than any 10 shadows user could ever stretch it, and he takes what a lot of people believe. Admittedly, I won't throw my own opinion on this. I'll kind of do it in a second, but I won't pull my full opinion on this. I'll make a whole separate video talking about Cleave and Dismantle on its own as a technique, or shrine, or whatever you want to call it. But in terms of just like how good he is at it, very, very good. This is the same man who could alter the properties of his technique on the fly after witnessing something else do it once. The man's a demon. The man's a demon with a textbook. Bro loves cursed energy, and he knows everything there is to know about it. But in terms of his cursed technique, can I really say he's number 1? The Limitless is so good. So is Copy. So is Cursed Spirit Manipulation. So is the adaptation / regeneration of Mahoraga. Like, it's kind of hard, right? Because there are some things you take cross-verse and they just get better. Cleave and Dismantle kind of get, like, you put the Limitless plus the 6 Eyes on any character in Jujutsu Kaisen and throw them somewhere else with some mastery of it, at least mastery of basic Infinity, they're going crazy. Well, then again, not really. They're not going crazy. They'll survive. But, I don't know. In terms of just sheer technique, I would say it was pretty much a kind of even cut until Spatial Slash. I think Spatial Slash pushed it up. I think Spatial Slash knocked Sukuna to top 1. Mainly because there's nothing in the verse that can defend it. Like, notably, even Unlimited Void, Hollow Purple, Red, Blue. Like, I think a lot of people agree that the Limitless is the other strongest technique in the verse. All that can be defended. I hate to say it. You can just be bulky. You can be bulky enough in Jujutsu Kaisen, and you can eat hollow purples. Look at Sukuna. You can just be bulky enough, and you can eat reds. Look at Sukuna. You can just be bulky enough and eat blues. Look at Sukuna. You can be smart enough and have a workaround for it with Unlimited Void. You can do that. There's not a single character in Jujutsu Kaisen who exists outside of space. There's not a single soul in it that transcends the 3rd dimension. I'm sorry. At least not yet. And Spatial Slash, boom. Cooked, scrumdiddlyumptious, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm sorry. It's just like that. For real, for real. There's just nothing that one can do about that. So honestly, in terms of just raw technique, in my opinion, Sukuna is still top 1. Just based on the fact that his one major attack that he can fire out on a whim, once again, it may just be like a 3-sentence phrase or something he can just launch out on the fly. Spatial Slash is unguardable. It is literally unguardable, especially if you think it doesn't travel. If you go with Kusakabe's game theory, then maybe it does still need to travel, and maybe you could defend it by dodging it, maybe? Maybe, I don't know. If characters like Kashimo are struggling to dodge it when warned about it, and Gojo Satoru, while looking Sukuna dead in the face, was unable to dodge it. Maybe not, considering Gojo Satoru is the fastest character in the verse. But an unguardable, undefendable, easy access technique that will most likely tear you in half. And unless your name's Hakari Kinji, I don't think you're recovering from that. And that's specifically Hakari Kinji for 4 minutes and 11 seconds and jackpot. And even then, go for his head. So, I don't really see the vision. I think Sukuna is top 1. But of course, let's do a quick little recap and see what Sukuna is top 1 in and what Sukuna is not top 1 in. In terms of strength, I think there. Well, actually, let me make a little proper list. Allow me to pop out La Computadora. Let me open up the notes app and let's actually get right into it. So the first thing that Sukuna may not be top 1 in is sheer simple striking strength. Unfortunately, until we see him start applying cleave to his punches, I can't really give him too much credit for that. There's characters like Ryu, there are characters like Yuki, there are characters like Gojo with Blue, who can all arguably hit just as hard as Sukuna, if not much harder, considering Gojo's able to compromise his durability. We see characters like Yuki Tsukumo tear through people like Kenjaku / Suguru Geto, who should have extreme amounts of durability, able to eat hits from fully manifested Rika and a angry Yuta Akotsu. You have things like Ryushiguri having the highest output in history, and if you think Sukuna's uniform, then he doesn't escape that statement. Unfortunately, Sukuna is the strongest in history in terms of overall ability, but not necessarily that ability. So strength, he may not be top 1 in. Another one he's not top 1 in. Just pretty definitively, if you think all speed is uniform across all... Well, if you think all stats are uniform across all the forms, speed. Gojo Satoru is still faster than him. There's nothing to suggest otherwise. Once again, Gojo Satoru, using his max speed, was able to outdo Sukuna on numerous occasions. You can definitely argue maybe Sukuna was holding back speed stats, but there's no reason for him to. None at all. I don't think so. I think every time he was caught off guard, he was just genuinely caught off guard. And while Sukuna does catch Gojo off guard, it's not usually because of speed, it's because of something unexpected in terms of properties with his attacks or unique abilities. So I think speed, Sukuna is not top 1. In terms of durability, yeah, he's top 1. Not really going against that. But in terms of another type of durability, in terms of RCT, he's not top 1 in that. He's top 3. I'm not going to say pretty generously, because there's no other better RCT user. Like, the only one you could maybe make an argument for is Kenjaku to make him top 4, but with characters like Gojo Satoru able to survive and pretty much walk through Malevolent Shrine, and you have characters like Hakari Kinji, who are just stated to have better RCT than him, he's not top 1 in RCT. In terms of Cursed Energy Reinforcement, once again, he should be the best. He just should be the best, because that correlates to durability. For the curse technique in of itself, I think he also should be the best, just because his ultimate tech is unguardable. No one should be able to guard it. It is literally unbeatable. It is unbreakable. It is almighty. For one thing I didn't mention, sure hit effect of his domain. While he may be top 1 in terms of domain refinement, I don't think his sure hit effect is the best, mainly because Gojo Satoru is able to tank it. So I do think in terms of domain sure hit effect, he is pretty powerful, but he's not that guy. So domain sure hit, that's another thing he's not top 1 in. But outside of that, in general IQ, presumably Kenjaku smarter than him. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. So IQ, but in battle IQ, he's probably smarter than Kenjaku even there. Once again, because Kenjaku can get caught lacking and caught off guarded. Caught off guarded. Is that even how you say that? But with that being the case, he is otherwise pretty much supreme in terms of curse technique, in terms of battle IQ, in terms of curse energy reinforcement, in terms of curse energy efficiency. That's the other one. Curse energy efficiency. So he's not top 1 in 6 aspects. But once again, the reasoning why is because of curse techniques. He's not top 1 in strength because other characters have curse techniques entirely based around strength, while his is more of a hacks-based thing. He's not the number 1 in speed because Gojo Satoru uses blue to enhance his base speed. He's not top 1 in RCT Because Gojo Satoru's ultimate RCT through the utilization of the Six Eyes, and Hakari Kenji's whole thing is RCT. Literally his entire thing. He doesn't have the number 1 IQ because he just wasn't around the entire time that Kenjaku was. He was fingers for a hot minute. Meanwhile, Kenjaku's been chilling around since year 1. He doesn't have the best sure hit domain because, Unlimited Void's just stupid and pretty much unguardable for the most part. Until it is guardable. Those guardable or redirectable. But in terms of sure hit, Gojo Satoru was able to survive it. Meanwhile, one hit of Unlimited Void had Sukuna seeing stars. And for Curse Energy Efficiency, once again, that's just the Six Eyes. AKA a built-in cheat code. I'm not going to fault Sukuna for that. So yes, Sukuna is overall the strongest. But that doesn't mean he's the best at everything. However, that is what I think. Please what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys think I'm wrong? I'm stupid? I'm a blasphemer? How dare I say big... I was about to say horrible things. The mighty Lord King of Curses Sukuna, he has to be almighty, the best at literally everything in order to be the strongest? Or do you guys agree with me and think that there's some things where he's lacking? Please let me know that in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave the strongest king in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to my channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Akid's Void. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. And I'd like to give a chunky old thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunka thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another giga gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.